Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And boy, do we have a surprise for you today. And our guest this week is Mukhtar Kadiri. Hey, Mukhtar, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Vasco. Bashko, I should say.
Yeah, very well pronounced. Not everybody is able to pronounce that weird S that sounds more like zh. But thank you for doing that. So Mukhtar is a PM career coach with 15 plus years of experience in project management. He specializes in helping project and program managers land high paid roles. And he's been named the #1 PM in Canada. And he also has a LinkedIn following, 67,000 professionals and counting. I'm sure probably more by now. And he shares practical insights for free on LinkedIn. And he talks about job search, career growth, and of course, surviving and thriving as a project manager. So, Mukhtar, welcome to the show. And of course, tell us a little bit more about yourself. And, the first question is always, how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master? So I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So, I guess I can take a step back to college, and this will be very, very important. So in college, I started out studying electrical engineering and computer science, and then I decided, okay, this wasn't for me. I wasn't just getting C++ then. So I decided, all right, I'm going to switch to petroleum engineering. So I switched, and then when I graduated, I ended up with this mix of computer science and petroleum engineering. So this company liked that background or that mix, and then they hired me to sort of sit between petroleum engineers and developers, because the company was about creating software for petroleum engineers. So I was in that interesting in-between spot, and then I was put in front of clients. And when you're put in front of a client in a consulting capacity, you're just responsible for making sure that we recoup revenue. Like we deliver on our milestones and we recoup revenue. So, before I knew it, I was, without knowing it, I was leading projects, right? From one successful engagement to the other. And then, that's how I started leading projects. And then I officially had the project manager title. So to your question, how did I end up becoming a Scrum Master? So actually, I became a project manager, program manager. And then during my career as a project program manager, I served as a Scrum Master sometimes, but I would say most of my career has been project and program management.
So this is a very interesting mix. And of course, everyone that follows this podcast knows that my background is in project management as well. But I'm also very vocal in saying that project management and Agile product or software development don't always marry so well. So I'm really interested to hear your thoughts and what you have discovered is exactly because of that experience, right? Living in these both worlds. So on Mondays, we always start with an interesting story of a failure. It's something about your career, what you learned at that moment. So tell us that story and share what the failure was. And we'll dive into the takeaways and the insights later on. But tell us that story first, Mukhtar.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to early on in my career. So remember how I said I was like put in front of clients. So I was put in front of this client, myself and a more senior consultant. And then this client decided, okay, like they wanted to cut costs. And, so they cut me basically, right? So I went back to the bench and I was sort of sitting on the bench with nothing to do. Very, very uneasy feeling because, my company, they were looking to reduce costs. So I just felt like my days were numbered. And then this one project came along. And then they put me on there. I was just happy to be useful, although it was like a low priority project and all of that. But it had the potential to be a big project, right? So I was put on there and I was told, okay, like this is we call the person the contract holder. So basically this is like almost like the sponsor or the main person on the client side, right? So this is the contract. So I met with the contract holder and I, understood the terrain and we laid out a plan. All right. And then I started to just execute because I was eager, young, started to execute. And then shortly thereafter, one of the stakeholders called me into our office. And I came into office and she blasted me. Like I'm not really used to people screaming at me in a professional context. Like usually that happens at home. But but yeah, so I was like my tail between my legs and okay. But basically, she was really upset at how the project was going along. Like it just didn't align with her vision of the project. I ended up finding out like she was actually even more powerful than the contract holder, but she was not placed anywhere on the org chart. So that was my number one lesson. It's like you look at the org chart, don't be fooled by the org chart. So you need to really sort of read between the lines and all of that. So anyway, she was upset with me. Now I had I had to really win her over, right? So I understood her, started, doing one-on-ones with her, understood what success of the project would look like from her perspective, who are, the people that she really thinks will be able to, whose opinions really matter for this project, right? So there were just so many stakeholders and different interests. So met with all of those people and then now really mapped a comprehensive success criteria for the project, right? Because nobody really told me, okay, this is what success looks like. And that's also a very dangerous thing because you can just go in there and be busy and be executing. But so what I did is I met with all these people, understood what success, and they just distilled that into this scope/plan, right? And this was even before I called myself a project manager. So I was just sort of, just trying to survive and trying to move this endeavor to the finish line.
It's interesting how you describe that, I guess, switch in your thinking, right? Because you were thinking that one person was the contract holder, main stakeholder, and then you discover actually they weren't. This other person was even more important, and you didn't even know where they sat and how they related to the project. And that switched into, okay, let me map out what success looks like. And for me, that's very important as a lesson for Scrum Masters out there, because very often success isn't offered. Like we are not told this is what success is, right? Like we are, and very often it happens, we're just given a list of tasks. We get a backlog and then, go execute sprint by sprint. And what strikes me is that very often, even the system is designed for us to focus on that task, like the thing to do, rather than understanding who are the key stakeholders and what success means. So these days, when you coach PMs out there, like what are the tools and the mental models you offer them so that they can finally understand how important it is to actually do that groundwork of mapping out who the real stakeholders are, not just the ones that are named, but also the other ones, and how do they define success for the project?
Right. So I'm a big believer in that, like a lot of project management is common sense. But so like a lot of times, like I'm a big believer in like relationships really matter. The human side of project management really, not to say like the other things are not important, like frameworks, the rigor, all of that is important. But I think sometimes common sense becomes not common. But one thing that I would just say before I answer your question is that even sometimes, just given the complexity and the ambiguity, the people in leadership don't even necessarily know what success looks like, right? They might feel it or they might know it maybe at some level, but they haven't quite sat down to really articulate it. And a lot of times, like, you're brought in, and when you're brought in, like, you are not necessarily going to be handed the success criteria. So it is up to you, even in your own best interest, to make sure that I articulate what I understand as success. It is clear to everyone, and we are now moving forward, right? Because I hope this is not an exaggeration, but I would say most of my projects are usually like that. Like, I come into chaos, and you have to sort of just, okay, this is your perspective. Okay, I'm putting everything down. Okay, this is a unified vision of everybody's vision. Do we agree? Okay, let's march forward, right? So to answer the question, how do you, like, I'm a big believer in one-on-ones. Like, I think like that's one of the most powerful meetings that a project manager, Scrum Master can have, because, there's always groupthink, in a group setting. And a lot of times you don't really know what's really going on in team meetings, right? It is in those in-between corridor chats or the one-on-one, that's where you actually get the real status, the real confidence level of people. So to me, like, when I just set foot on a project, one of the first things I do is just schedule one-on-ones all around, with different people. And, when I meet one person, I understand what their pain points are, what their frustrations are, what success will look like. And then I ask them to point me to another person, right? And then I go until I now start to see patterns.
So you're kind of navigating the complex social network by collecting information from people in these one-on-ones, and then kind of building your own map of who are the real stakeholders, not the named stakeholders, but the real stakeholders.
Right. And not to say you discard, like, you have all of that, and you keep that, but then you also need to validate, with your own, like, mapping, so to speak. And sometimes it is complementary, and other times it can be contradictory, right? So you need to sort of make sense of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great tip, one that we don't often get here on the podcast. So thank you for sharing with us, Mukhtar.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO-level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, that's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.